that was me throughout the entire year, just looking at them going, what are you actually doing? This is so off script for you. Until I just embraced the chaos and went, oh, this is entirely intentional. You're purposely doing things that people don't expect. 30 years on and you still manage to surprise people.
Welcome back to Foos Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. And it's not just any episode this week, it's the last episode of Foos Files for 2025. Yeah, I'm afraid so. Going to take a little bit of a breather now until January, have some downtime from the podcast, try not to eat and drink too much over Christmas, get some new content in the bag, and then come back, all systems go for January, and look ahead for what promises to be a really exciting 2026 for the band, doesn't it? So yeah, we're going to do a Foo review of 2025 in this episode, and we've got Kirri from Foo Fighters Live joining us to look back on the year, which, let's face it, I mean, it looked like it was going to be a quiet, very low-key one for the band, didn't it, in their 30th anniversary? And then in the past few months, they've just gone into supercharge mode and finished the year on top form, doing all the things that we love them for. So yeah, here it is, our Foo review of the year 2025 with Kirri from Foo Fighters Live.
Dan, line them up one more time. Let me see everybody so I can thank them. There you are.
So we're welcoming back to the podcast this week Kirri from Foo Fighters Live. How you doing, mate? It's been a long time.
I know, even though it doesn't feel like that long at all, time flies when it comes to Foo Fighters, doesn't it?
It does. Funny you say that, because we're going to do a little review of 2025, and it kind of felt like it was going to be a quiet year to start with, and then since September there's been something happening like every couple of days, it seems.
That's something I'm really keen to talk about, because throughout most of the year, I've been watching them just sort of squinting at them going, what is the plan? Like there's this bit in Modern Family where, I don't know, Phil's wife, I forget her name, I'm sorry. Phil's up to his usual antics, and suddenly she just goes, what's the plan, Phil? That was me throughout the entire year, just looking at them going, what are you actually doing? This is so off script for you. Until I just embraced the chaos and went, oh, this is entirely intentional. You're purposely doing things that people don't expect. 30 years on and you still manage to surprise people.
Mm. And I suppose the thing is, they have had a series of bad luck with anniversaries in the past, haven't they?
Oh, jeez. Tell me about it. 20 years, the 25th. And so I think all of us entered FF30 with a bit of, trepidation, cautious excitement, that kind of thing. Like having some excitement, but also also accepting they may want to keep it low key. And for a while there, it looked like they were going to keep it very low key. But then they started, poking their heads out a little bit. And we're like, oh?
Yeah, it's funny perceptions though, isn't it? Because from when they played that last gig in Seattle, which was like in July, to when they came back for the San Luis Obispo show, it's like 13 months. And in terms of a break between after 2 years on the road, that's nothing. That's just like standard, isn't it? So it's a perception thing, and I suppose you get a couple of headlines that they're not used to, and it was just a sort of a normal break, really.
For them, I suppose so, yeah. But then 13 months would feel like probably 3 years. So then they'd be, sitting there getting the itch, So yeah, but then in Seattle as well, they said they were. Well, Dave alluded to holding the 30th anniversary in Seattle itself. So, yeah, that didn't quite pan out for whatever reason, but then apparently they had something altogether planned, something else.
Hmm. Yeah, well, speaking of, you said getting the itch, Dave never stays quiet for long, and he was kind of back at it early in the year doing the Saturday Night Live and the Fire Aid stuff with doing the Nirvana reunion with Pat and Chris, which was great, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was interesting seeing the reactions to all that from, I guess, people were shocked at first and, obviously pleasantly surprised. And then they immediately, I guess, accepted and embraced, the chaos of Post Malone being there, sort of unexpected. And to his credit, he did brilliantly.
He really did. I really enjoyed the St. Vincent performance. When for whatever reason a certain artist that's been around for a while kind of passes you by, and then you hear something and you go, why is this artist not been in my life before? I was a bit like that with St. Vincent. I was like, she's brilliant, and I'm a Nirvana fan anyway. I love Breed. Why have I never listened to her? And so that's sort of started off a bit of a chain reaction for me. But yeah, I thought that was really great.
I love those moments. Yep. Although I do wonder whether there was a tech issue with St. Vincent when she did Breed, because she seemed to be very pissed off with something in her ear. But then again, it's grunge.
Yeah, you could barely hear the vocal for the first 20 seconds or so. But do you know what? Those shows where you're kind of throwing artists off stage and others on straight away, they don't get to sound check properly, do they? So it's probably just one of those. Yeah. So, and then Coachella, that was kind of the first sign of him back on Foo Fighters duty, really. Even though he was on his own with the LA Phil, we got Everlong and Sky's a Neighborhood in it. And in true Dave fashion, he left us hanging for a week because we thought it was going to be the first Saturday of Coachella, and then it turned out to be the second one.
Yeah. Kind of feel guilty about setting those high hopes up, I'm afraid, on Foo Fighters Live, because first we heard of any sound checks was from that artist on TikTok who was painting or whatever just in the yard, but it happened to be overlooking the Hollywood Bowl, and so she was secretly capturing a lot of their sound checks and just happened to find her recording what we assumed was Foo Fighters at the time, doing, I believe it was the Skies a Neighborhood that we heard first? Well, one of those. And I was going, oh, this could actually be happening. Because, when you hear, instance, Foo Fighters will be appearing at this festival. I mean, if rumors are to be believed, you can expect them to appear at every single festival that's going to happen throughout the year. And so you tend to take rumors like that with kind of a grain of salt. So that video, kind of gave you a little skip in your heart and you got a little bit excited. And when more videos, she did with some like 3 more videos after that, we started to figure out that we couldn't hear the band. It was just Dave with what we figured out was LA Orchestra. But people were no less thrilled because that meant that, to borrow from an Australian poem, there was, I'm going to butcher the phrase, there was movement at the station.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just great to see him back out there, wasn't it? Playing Foo's songs. But yeah, you kind of said that they're rumoured to be played every single festival in the world, and you find yourself scanning lineups these days and going, I don't recognise that band name. Is that the new Churn-Ups or the new Holy Shit?
Was it Reading that we were talking about where there was the announcement and then one name was blanked out?
Yeah, and that's a legitimate band name that I had no idea about.
I didn't follow up on it, but just on that image, I'm like, yeah, you could definitely fit the Foo Fighters name in there. But I don't know any updates on that. But this is what it's like being a Foo Fighters fan. You've got to be ready. You've got to look for them everywhere because, as we found out from this year, they can show up anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get on to that shortly. So, and then we probably had the biggest sort of surprise of the year came in May when Josh announced he was no longer in the band, which, whatever we think about it, it took us all by surprise, didn't it?
It surely did, yes. But whether you knew him from his years and breadth of experience before joining the Foo Fighters, or whether you came to know him and love him just from his short time in the band, when you read that, you did sit back and you were stunned because we had come to love him being in the band, and we really appreciated him showing up. And I think I said something in our gratitude post to Josh about offering his hand and pulling them up when they were down. And Josh really did that.
He absolutely did. We weren't sure if we were still going to have a Foo Fighters for some time, and he was there to step into the breach. And I mean, we don't really want to dwell on what may or may not have happened, but yeah, Josh has got one of those sense of humours as well, where when he's kind of got no filter, hasn't he? So when he puts things out there, you don't always know how to interpret it, I suppose.
But then also with the band, that can be an attribute. So with Josh, everything seemed right on paper, you could say, and everything seemed to be gelling. But I guess perhaps Josh was the bridge that they needed to get to where they needed to go next. And that is not to disparage the contribution he made to the band at all, because he made a tremendous difference in the band. Like, they could have easily tied a bow on it and said, yeah, all right, we're done. But with Josh, they found their groove again, and we should be grateful to Josh for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another evolution in the story of the band, isn't it? I mean, I know there's what we like to think of the classic lineup now with Nate and Shifty and Pat and Taylor, and it's that was kind of taken away from us, but it's the either side of that, there's been this evolution, hasn't there? And this is just the latest one, I guess. So just looking forward to seeing what Ilan brings to the table now.
Well, right from the first performance, it seemed like it clicked immediately. Everyone looked at it and went, "Oh, I get it. I get why you wanted him. Like, he is a powerhouse."
Would you please welcome this badass motherfucker that's playing drums? His name's Ilan Rubin. You gotta say, hey, Ilan. Finally, there's more hair in this fucking band. Jesus Christ. Started looking like a barber shop after a while. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a bit of I think Dave sees a bit of a kindred spirit there, because there's the sort of John Bonham influence. He's another multi-instrumentalist who, as well as playing drums, writes and records his own material. I do think there's a bit of probably a kindred spirit there that he was perhaps not necessarily he's been looking for, but you don't know when you're going to come across those people, I guess. And it was just the right fit at the right time.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at Ilan and you put yourself in Dave's shoes and making that decision, you can imagine him looking at finding Ilan, like, obviously they didn't meet that for the very first time this year, but going through his mental Rolodex and going, oh, that makes sense, and sort of having that rapport with him before they even had a chance to work together, just because, again, like you said, they're kindred spirits. And Ilan being so energetic and so enthusiastic about the band as well, that he immediately brought such an uplifting energy.
Yeah, just going back a step, it's funny you said that about they'll have known each other before, but the whole drummer sort of market, so to speak, it's just hilarious, because obviously we had Josh going back to 9 Inch Nails to replace Ilan replacing Josh. There was loads of room there. I think around the same time, when there's this void where we didn't know who the drummer was going to be, like Matt Cameron became available, and there were various other drummers who'd finished whatever they were up to. And it's just like a big bun fight, the drummer market, isn't it? It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny how it came down to like a Foo Fighters 9 Inch Nails reverse Uno in the end.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I was trying to think of the phrase, yeah, but you nailed it perfectly. And then we got up to July, the actual anniversary of the debut album, and they suddenly decided to join us, and it was like, hi guys, yeah, some of us have been doing 30th anniversary content for months now. Where have you been? Thanks for coming, thanks for popping in.
Yeah, I know. It was, we weren't sure whether they were going to do anything at all, and then suddenly they started doing a couple of throwback posts, and then the Substack showed up, and we thought, okay, are they actually doing something? Then are they as interested in this as us? And then that we suddenly got a teaser of a new song, and when that happens, we know what this means. Okay, Everybody assume the positions, brace yourselves. This could drop any minute now.
Yeah, you pulled a couple of quite late nights that week, didn't you, waiting for the song drop?
Yeah, it was supposed to drop about midnight or 1 a.m. my time, and I think we got the somehow got the dates muddled up. So I was up until 1 a.m. just sitting in front of the computer with my eyes crossed, just I think I joked about like Blink 182, just going, "Where are you?" And then started, okay, I give up for the night, we're done. And then it happened the next night. It's like, oh well, the things I do for love.
Yeah, as you said, we got a album by album Substack. Was it an album by album they did? Well, wasn't it the Substack channel that they launched?
Yeah, they went in the whole discography starting from the beginning. And there was a couple that they left off, but I mean, fair enough. They just did the major studio albums, which is, they're hitting the major points. So I was like, okay, well that's still not nothing. They're still showing up, they're participating. And there was a lot of good treats in there as well. They posted a lot of fan content in the Substack as well, and which I did a lot more when they started to do some shows. And they started getting into the spirit of the anniversary a lot more as time went on.
It's funny you say that about they covered all the major albums, because I know there's a bugbear of yours that they missed out Saint Cecilia, and that's 10 this year, isn't it?
The 10-year anniversary, I believe so, yes. And as soon as they skipped to the next one, I was like, excuse me, it's right there. It's neglected again.
They did. I mean, they acknowledged it a few weeks back, didn't they, when it was the release anniversary? But yeah, it was a notable absence from the Substack content. So, and I know that was rankling with you from speaking to you around that time.
Well, I gave them a pass. Better late than never. And you know what? Even though they didn't include it in the Substack, I'll always give them credit for doing it at all, because just for the fact that it had the Never Ending Sigh on it, which means they finally finished Seven Corners. Yeah. So, credit where it's due.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned we were waiting for today's song to drop, and it was one of the LA local papers or news outlets that seemed to get the scoop on that, and then it came later that day. So there's kind of scant information out there really about today's song, isn't there, other than it was produced or co-produced by or engineered by Oliver at 606. We think Dave played drums on it, and then other than that, we don't really know loads of information about it, do we? But I know you're a bit of a wizard at scanning the metadata and looking at song registries and stuff for things like this.
Yeah, for what we could work out, I actually can't take credit for it. Someone else checked the metadata for the song. There was a date on there that was only a few weeks before it was released. So we're trying to work out from the timeline whether it was Dave playing on the track, and that would make today's song a standalone sort of, transitional single, or whether Ilan, that was his first contribution and just wasn't recognized at the time. But he absolutely took credit for asking for a friend later on, but he didn't for the first one. So the plot thickens.
Well, yeah, because the other thing is as well, we're kind of jumping forward a bit with asking for a friend, but there was Dave's note about Japan and Mount Fuji, and everyone's kind of going, hang on a second, you're only in Japan a couple of weeks ago, and now you're saying this has part inspired the song, and this all feels a little bit off. But it leads me to believe, as you say, those two songs are not only sort of transitional ones, but there may be bits of songs that they've just had lying around for a while, as artists do, and then they go, yeah, let's just kind of finish this and like rush it out there, rather than it being, oh, there's a new album coming and this is part of that.
Yeah, I can see today's song being released just for the reason being that there was a 30th anniversary and that they may as well put out something. That's not to disparage the song, although it did have, fair enough, some mixed reviews from fans. I remember Forbes magazine was the first to label today's song as a standalone single, which I guess confirmed it to some, but others, they were like, maybe there could be more coming. We don't know. But I can understand if it was a standalone single, I can understand why they released it for the 30th anniversary, just so they could put something out at the, at the time. But then we also got a bonus with the Minor Threat cover, which was 30 years in the making.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I forgot all about that one, actually, in my notes. I've got today's song, Asking for a Friend, and you've just completely shown up my my preparation there, because I forgot all about it.
It wasn't exactly a wide release anyway. It was just put on YouTube. So I think it was just, maybe that was, maybe that further confirms what it was at the time, just sort of, throw it together, put something out, let's tick that off the list.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with Asking for a Friend, because they're announcing a pretty hefty tour. And you know what? We're in a different age now where an album isn't always necessarily the priority for bands. Like, even when they're having a quieter year, per se, the world we live in, there's pressure to put content out there at all times. And that just lends itself to dropping the odd song out every now and again that nobody's heard.
Well, there could be something in that, actually. There's been a lot of talk lately about how music consumption is not necessarily is more about just content now, rather than waiting and then putting out an album. More artists are just issuing singles or EPs, and the wait time is much more condensed. And with Foo Fighters, the traditional formula, as we know, is to stretch it out as long as possible, make it painful, keep everyone waiting, and then like a confetti cannon of music in the form of them finally releasing something. So that harkens back to me saying that they're flipping the script this year, so they're trying new things. And if they are just issuing, well, at the moment it seems like they're issuing singles rather than in anticipation of an album, as far as we know anyway, which it in its way is also exciting.
Yeah, and it's just a nice way to be able to having something to peg an announcement on as well, like, rather than just saying, yeah, here's a tour, and it's the sort of skeptic in you goes, yeah, here's the tour that we should have done this year, but we're doing it next year, rather than just sort of doing that. Why not put a new song out to coincide with the announcement? Because it's just an extra added bonus to get the fans excited, isn't it?
That's it. I would still expect an album announcement like imminently, though. Just the fact that the name of the tour is Take Cover, which there's no context for why they would call it that, except for knowing that they have more music on the way. And so, yeah, it's an interesting timeline we're in right now.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
It is. It is indeed. Yeah. We're still. They love to keep us guessing. We glossed over Asking for a Friend a little bit. As we said, we know a little bit more about that, in a sense that Ilan posted and said something along the lines of, it was a pleasure to feature on this track. But yeah, this one, it seemed to capture the imagination of the fan base a little bit more than today's song, didn't it?
That was it. Asking for a Friend felt like a return to form, and also having all the elements there that makes a Foo Fighters song great. I sounded like Rick then, but it is true. It has, all the ingredients are there. It's the Foo Fighters original recipe, and so when they played it live for the first time, for right now it's the first and only time, a little bit later on, it just sounded just as good as it did on the record. And it just reminds you why you're so into this band in the first place, just because the music, Asking for a Friend, whether it's a studio recording or live, I'm even just describing the music in general, it's just invigorating. And in saying that, they sound invigorated as well. They sound so keen to keep doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right, and it's been if you look at the way, we're going to get onto the kind of live return in a minute, but if you look at the way the whole persona of the band, they do look recharge. And it's not to say they weren't enjoying the last tour, but it was very different circumstances, the last tour, and finding their feet again. But they just they've got a sort of renewed energy about them, haven't they? And even silly things like Dave's done like 3 interviews in the last couple of months, having not done anything since Taylor passed away, really. And it just feels like that's an extension of it, really, that there's just they're look a bit revitalized, shall we say.
I absolutely agree. There's perhaps they're feeling more safe to do so now that time has passed and the feeling's not so raw. But not just Dave as well, but the whole band did an interview in Rock and On magazine in Japan, and they had such insightful and interesting things to say about themselves and the band and where they've been, where they're going. And it seems like they're not that they were ever closed, but as you said, on the last tour, they were there, but they were still a little bit, softly, that kind of thing. Maybe a little bit guarded. I'm feeling less of that now.
For all of you old school motherfuckers, we got some old school. For the old school people, they used to stay in line for 5 fucking hours for a ticket. Tonight, we're gonna play a bunch of songs from the last 30 fucking years. So we got a lot of fun shit. How do we do it in under 3 hours?
It kind of brings us on nicely to the whole live return and the pop-up shows and stuff like that. And it all started with, there was some social media teasers that were quite cryptic, and this is them back to doing what we've loved them for over the years. They just start really messing with us, and that's like, yeah, this is what it reminded us. This is, as well as the music, this is why we love them, because they love to just mess with us and keep us going, oh, what does this mean? What's coming here?
I had to laugh when they released made the announcement for the first show in SoCal. I'm going to butcher the real name, San Luis Obispo. Yeah. I think that's it. I had to laugh at the poster when it was obvious that they made this announcement going, yeah, watch this. They're going to eat this shit up. They're going to love it. But also on the poster, they said, nobody hates us more than our fans. Oh, I just thought that self-awareness, but also, just them going, okay, fuck it.
And wasn't there another slogan about playing the old songs, because I've can't remember what
I'm going to paraphrase it. Yeah. And playing the old songs because you like them more.
That is exactly it. That was it. That was brilliant. And to just put a nod to the old school fans who were saying, yeah, come on, play the first album.
I do remember in the lead up to the 30th anniversary and just throwing around ideas about what they were going to do. There were a lot of fans who were really hopeful that they were going to play the first album start to finish. Now, they didn't exactly do that. I don't think that doesn't feel like a thing that they're interested in, just, pressing play on themselves. You know what I mean? But they did bring a lot of fan favorites back, even in the first couple of shows. Like, when was the last time we heard Exhausted? Like, that's no small thing. And opening with, no, it was at the second or third show, opening with Enough Space.
I think it was the second one.
Yeah, people went off their nut, and rightly so. It was reassuring, I suppose, that they hadn't forgotten about, the songs that made people literally jump up and down before, and they haven't forgotten how much we just love the music, from any time.
That's the other thing, actually. We got the Bandcamp release, speaking of which, are playing where, and that says Volume 1, which suggests there could be a Volume 2.
Unless they're playing with us again. But I like I like to think that there's Volume 1 of however many that they're planning.
Yeah. But what a great release that was as well. The songs that we've just talked about, Exhausted and Winnebago and Alone and Easy Target, and they just sound so good. And to get new soundboard live recordings of those songs is just like, wow.
Yeah, that's the thing that strikes you immediately, how good it sounds and how big it sounds, but considering that they played in such small venues. It puts you right, not just front and center, but you feel like you're on the stage. And credit to their team for for making that possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then we were saying earlier about they've crammed a lot into the second half of the year. They've played in 5 countries, which is bonkers considering, as we said, we thought it was all going to be very quiet. So yeah, they've just kind of motored on from that since that San Luis Obispo comeback.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't even realize 5 countries. I didn't really realize how much it had been until you just said that. That it went from 0 to 100. It seemed like out of the blue.
Yeah. And the set lists have just been great, haven't they? The songs that we talked about the first album, but the songs that they've been dropping in, like we got Hey Johnny Park at one of the Mexico gigs, and which is one of those that's in and out infrequently. I think it was the Monterey show. I was talking to some people for a previous episode that were at that, and I said, I think you probably got the best set list that they've done this year. But it's just been great. Some of the less played songs, shall we say, that they've brought out of the locker.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I was obviously watching the Monterey set list on a live stream, and even though I was on the other side of the planet, as many of us were, that did not diminish how good the set felt and how energetic the band and the audience was. You could barely keep up with it. You'd finish one song and just barely recover, and then they'd shook onto the next one. I think was it Monkey Wrench that led straight into Hey Johnny Park like they used to do. You barely had time to catch your breath, and again, that's them being at their absolute best.
Yeah, and Run seems to be in there quite a bit at the moment as well, which is just, there's certain songs where you hear the recorded version, and when you hear it live, you go, whoa, that's what that song's really about. And that Run's one of those. It's a different beast live, I think.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder for a while if Run was going to be one of the casualties of them having too many songs to play in a set. So unfortunately, something's got to go. So I'm glad that they brought Run back and did the extended jam on it, because it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, at times it was thunderous. It was absolutely huge. And I don't think I'd ever heard it sound as good as it did then.
No, I'd agree. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So, I mean, 2026, we've got UK and Europe dates. We've got US dates. You've got one Australia date. Just the one.
Yeah. Fine at the moment. I've like I said, I highly doubt that this is going to be the last. They love to come here when it's stinking hot like it is now in the summer. So I fully expect them to announce. I mean, this is just based on history. Like, I don't have any insider info on that, but I do expect that this is the first, but not the last.
Yeah, and Shifty can go surfing, can't he, as he loves to do when he's out there.
Oh yeah. They'll just let him go for the day. It's like taking a kid to a toy store.
Yeah, and he does that, and then he plays football when he's over here. So there must be, whoever's in charge of the band's sort of insurance policies or whatever they must be wincing when Shifty gets stuck into his sporting activities when he's on tour.
I think the last time they came, Nate went to Byron to do some surfing as well. So I bet whoever's in charge of their insurance just went, oh God, we lost another one. Not him too.
Well, Nate, apparently, I don't know if this was a joke, but did you hear in one of the Japan shows, and Dave was like, oh, Nate went sumo wrestling today?
Nate Mendel plays the bass in the Foo Fighters. Say hello. He's amazing. He was sumo wrestling today. He went sumo wrestling. And he survived. Right. Did you wear the thing with your... You didn't wear the thing? Yeah, that's bullshit.
I don't know if that was legitimate or it was a joke, but I'd just trying to imagine Nate in those, because he always strikes you as the quiet, sort of sensible one in the band. You could just trying to picture him putting on one of those big suits, going sumo wrestling,
taking a big wide stance and everything, making himself big. Oh no, every single story I hear about Nate being anything other than, being on the straight and narrow, all I say is what Dave said about him. But there was always Nate. Because Nate is the quiet one, but that's because he strikes when you least expect it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that we haven't touched on from this year? A particular highlight for you?
I think those were them covering the main bases. I think just from the brilliant chaos that was 2025, I think 2026, which is FF31, however you want to say it, I think it's going to be no less exciting. I think we've got a lot more in store for us. I think they're just getting started.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, that's brilliant. It's always great to chat to you. And we've got through, the listeners won't know this, but we've got through endless technical problems with this one today at both my end and your end, but we got there in the end. So, yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It does. And yeah, as always, thanks for everything you do on FFL for us fans to enjoy, because yeah, you put some shifts in, you really do.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I always say I would not be able to do this without everybody else, without the fans. And it's by fans, for fans. And it always will be.
I'm not finished. The song's not over yet. There's more. Just a little bit.
A big thanks for Kirri, who, when it comes to tracking and documenting what the band have been up to, her and the FFL team are as thorough and meticulous as it gets, really. And if you haven't done so yet, you can go back to episode 5 of the podcast to hear more about Kirri and the work she does over on FFL. As mentioned, that's going to be it for 2025 from me. So I just wanted to say a few thank yous. First of all, to everyone who's listened to the podcast, and then everyone who's got involved generally, whether it's been engaging on social media, sharing the episodes, sharing stories with me, joining in the discussion, sending us messages. As mentioned, that's going to be it for 2025 from me. So just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's got involved with the podcast since we launched in April. Whether it's been just tuning in to listen, sharing a story, getting involved on social media, messaging me privately, sharing the episodes, obviously our guests for giving up their time for interviews, all of those on the Discord group too, and Club 606 who've chipped in with their contributions. Your support and enthusiasm for this really does mean everything. So yeah, huge thanks. So that leaves me to say, really, have a very Merry Christmas to those of you who are celebrating, a wonderful New Year, and let's do it all over again in 2026. Take care, and we'll see you in January.